In the old days, the world around our ancestors was full of mystery, full of things that couldn't be understood. In the days before what we know of as science, the line between the natural and the supernatural simply didn't even exist. What wasn't understood was still dangerous. We tend to tell ourselves that we understand, and that science has explained it all. But we still run into things, even in the natural world, that can never be fully explained or comprehended. Strange things still happen in the forest through which we ran and played as children. Strange things still happen in the mountains that we visit and love. Strange things still happen on the river, our own Cumberland River. And that alone is terrifying. It all started about 300 years ago, or at least that's when people started to actually write down the story. At the time, the Cherokee Indians had been inhabiting a good majority of Tennessee, including the hills of what is now Nashville. With tribes and settlements set up around the Cumberland River, the Indians were deeply connected to those waters, depending on it for everything. The river gave them life, but they began to realize that it might also bring their death. In the late 1750s, the Cherokee noticed an unusual number of disappearances. Random, terrifying, and completely unexplainable disappearances. The bodies often washed up days later along the banks of the Cumberland, lifeless and cold. Each morning, after a long night of silent deaths, more bodies were found, drowned and woundless in the river. The local leaders were determined to find out who or what was responsible, but after weeks of searching, they were left with no real lead, slowly growing afraid of the horrors that the foggy night produced. As the drownings continued and villagers slowly picked off, one by one, the tribe's efforts to discover some terrible cause or creature quickly turned into a blood-curdling scream for help. Weeks passed, and as the villages turned into the village, one thing became clear. Night meant death. Daytime became the tribe's only relief. As time went on, although they were still unsure of what this thing was, the Cherokee learned that if they could make peace with it, they could end the years of horror and death that it had effortlessly produced. One night, a local mother left her children by a tree on the edge of the lake while she went to the river to wash their clothes. When she returned, her 2 children were gone, found the next morning washed up along the shore. After another 2 or 3 deaths in the same area, the Cherokee discovered how they could stop the mass deaths. Each night, they tied an enemy prisoner to the very tree in which the children were taken, as if to feed this invisible creature their life and breath as a surrender to keep the peace and the villagers alive. All was well and peace had been made until the settlers came on horseback in 1779 with their wives, children, fathers, and mothers. Even then, the Cumberland was a prime spot, but with the Cherokee gone and the settlers having taken over, the feeding stopped. People began to be found dead in the river. The killings were worse and much more extreme than ever before. It wasn't until the mid-1800s when the deaths nearly stopped completely, no one truly knowing why. This thing, this horrible, terrifying thing, nearly seemed to be forgotten, but it's anything but that. In 1959, the Cumberland River was dammed, turning a portion of the river into what's now known as Old Hickory Lake. The body of water that had brought both life and death to the Cherokee and settlers had now become something much, much bigger, and the flood had awakened the beast once more. To this day, unexplainable deaths still occur, and bodies are still found in the lake and its banks. Recently, 26-year-old Reagan Jewett went missing and was found dead in the river a few days later with no real sign of trauma. 15-year-old James Davis went missing in late summer after a night on the lake with friends and was dead in the water days later with no trauma. Dawson Lee Byers was found dead in the lake. He was believed to have fallen out of his boat, but he was found later with no apparent sign of trauma. Even this last week, an unidentified man was found floating in the water with absolutely no sign of trauma in or outside his body. Dumbfounded, Officials are still trying to understand the abnormal number of drownings that occur in Old Hickory Lake, but they do not have all the answers, nor the ability to fully comprehend the truth. None of us do, and that perhaps is the scariest part of all of this.